The skill that I will be discussing involves planning a visit with your professor. This is a really important tool because your professor is a person of really respectable knowledge, and they're somebody that you should take advantage of their time in order to help you advance your college career and become a better college student. Visiting your professor may be for multiple reasons. One might be because you received a grade on an exam or an assignment that you simply didn't understand or didn't expect. Another thing might be because you just don't understand the material that's being provided inside or outside of the class. And going to the professor to help clarify those things is really important. So the tool is an outline that breaks down visiting a professor and strategizing the visit into different steps so that when you go and visit the professor, you know what you want to ask and you know what your desired outcome will be. The peer academic coaches have created an outline to help you plan out your visit with your professor, and it looks like this. It begins with you first recognizing which person or professor is going to best answer your question. This might seem really straightforward, and it might be straightforward for some of you, but for others, some classes have multiple professors, and so trying to figure out who's going to best answer your question is an important part of it. It also asks you to figure out what the email is and the office, and so those are both things, as well as the office hours, that you can find those in the syllabus, most likely. Sometimes you can't, and so you have to use other resources to figure that out. Each of these are going to help you initially email the professor and verify that they're going to be in their office when they said what their office hours are. And that's just a guarantee. It's just to verify it, because it's not always guaranteed that your professor is going to be there when you show up. And it's also common courtesy to let them know that you'd like to visit them in advance. The second step consists of figuring out your original question. You might have a vague idea, but actually articulating it can be kind of hard. So you want to ask yourself why exactly you're going to see the professor, and maybe come up with some follow-up questions depending on what answer you receive, and just try to figure out the general purpose of your visit. Then you're going to take step 3 and break down your visit or the questions that you have. And the 3 sub-questions to that are, is the purpose specific, is the purpose relevant, and what is your desired outcome? And this is to help you kind of make sure that you're visiting your professor for a reason, for a good reason, and one that you can apply to your college career, to your better advancement. Is the purpose relevant? Does it apply to me? Does it apply to the professor? Does it apply to my future in this class and outside of this class? Making sure that what you're learning is actually going to help you out. And then what is your desired outcome? As we talked about earlier, if you're not doing so well in the class because you're not understanding material, is your desired outcome to figure out how to break down that material so you can understand it, or maybe you received that grade you didn't like, so how are you going to improve that grade? It might be that idea of a desired outcome. Then the final question or plan is your 4th step, and that is basically just summing up everything that you figured out so far. So maybe actually sending out that email and enacting the visit by going and seeing the professor and asking the specific questions that you have, and making sure that you're utilizing the time well by figuring out information that's going to help you in the future. The last and final step is reflecting on your visit. And this is something that's oftentimes overlooked or forgotten, but it's an important step because you can look back on the visit and just figure out what new information you've learned or what new knowledge you've gained that you can apply to the class in the future and maybe apply to other classes. Sometimes that information learned is versatile. And this is a step that actually can be done with a peer academic coach. So if you want to come in and plan a visit with us, you can do that, and then we can help you go through what you learned from your visit with your professor. I can personally advocate for this tool because I've actually used it. One of my classes, Anatomy and Physiology, I received an exam back from the professor, and I did not do well on that exam, to say the least. So I decided that I was going to be proactive about it and go and visit with the professor and just discuss the test and kind of see if I could improve some things regarding it. So I followed the outline and I looked up my professor. I found her email, her office hours, and her office location. Those are all things I found in the syllabus. I noted them, and then I started thinking about what I really wanted, what the purpose of my visit really was going to be. So I obviously had done things wrong in the test, and so I was thinking about maybe asking, what areas I got specifically wrong. So that was kind of like the general original question that I had. And then I broke down the visit, and so I looked at the purpose, and it was definitely specific. I wanted to see the professor to target the areas that were weak in my studying so that I could improve them for future tests. It was definitely relevant because I needed to do that sooner than later so that I could help myself now and just be ready to work on it and improve my study skills for the class. And then my desired outcome was obviously to do well on future exams. So my final question was then, what are the specific subtopic areas that I didn't do well in that I can improve for future exams that I'll be taking? And so I shot her an email, or I sent her an email, and I just said I wanted to verify that you'll be in your office at this time, and I would like to go over the test with you. And so she said she would be, so I went and we visited, we talked it through. Turns out I did not study the origins and insertions very well. So I then asked her another follow-up question of, well, how can I better study for that area? And she actually advised me to draw it all out. And so I took that, noted it, and then when I got back, I kind of reflected on what we had talked about. And I did figure out my weak spots, and I also did figure out a game plan. So I decided to follow her advice and come up with a studying tool of drawing out the origins and insertions. And I did really well on the future exams, so that was really good and definitely beneficial that I went and visited with the professor. I would not have known how to improve how I was studying if I hadn't gone and seen her, and I wouldn't have known what areas I really needed to work on if I hadn't gone and seen her. So definitely advocate using this tool to ultimately visit your professor, but to also make sure that when you're visiting your professor, you are using an efficient way of your time to spend talking with her or him, and also just making sure that you can articulate what you're really asking so that you can get the answers that you really need in order to improve your grades or whatever issue you're dealing with. So the overall point of planning your visit with your professor is to encourage an efficient use of your time, and that you have purposeful goals or questions when you converse with them, and then also just to make sure that the communication is clear enough so that the professor can actually help you and inspire you to your success. In the context of utilizing the Academic Resource Center as an actual source, we advise you to come in and meet with a peer academic coach. We would just help you formulate your plan prior to your visit by utilizing this tool that I just described, and then you would go and visit with the professor. Then afterwards, we would come back and we would debrief and maybe just go over and see if you achieved the desired outcomes that you had initially. Maybe also just see if the tool actually helped you and if you used it correctly. And in this way, then we can kind of help you along the way and maybe help you come up with that follow-up plan that comes from the reflection part of the outline for visiting your professor. Honestly, the peer academic coaches are your peers, and they're just here to be alongside you throughout your college career or whenever you need us. And hopefully we just help you, inspire you to success, and promote your college career so that you come out with that degree that you're seeking right now.